Here's the truth most men don't want to face. Women cheat differently than men. They don't just stumble into it. They prepare, they detach, they justify. And by the time you notice, it's already over. That's why so many men get blindsided. But betrayal doesn't just appear out of thin air. It happens when three conditions collide. Three specific things that, once in place, almost guarantee she'll look elsewhere. If you don't know what they are, you're vulnerable. But if you do, you'll see the danger signs long before she crosses the line. In this video, I'll walk you through those three things step by step. Can someone look you in the eyes, whisper, "I love you," and still betray you behind your back? The uncomfortable truth is yes. That's not what you want to hear, but it's the first dose of reality you need. Too many men cling to the illusion that love automatically equals loyalty. But if you've been alive long enough, you already know the two don't always travel together. And when it comes to women, this gap can be devastating. The problem starts with definitions. Men usually have a singular, almost tunnel vision idea of what love means. For most men, love is passion, desire, closeness, and physical connection. If those are alive, he feels secure. If those are gone, he feels abandoned. But women see love through a wider lens. Psychology breaks it down into 4 major categories, and when you understand these, you'll see why a woman can cheat and still claim she loves you. The first is eros. This is the fiery, intoxicating love of passion and closeness. It's the kind of love that keeps couples up all night, that pulls them into each other's orbit like gravity. It's addictive, it's exciting, and it's what most men crave. The second is philia. This is the bond of friendship, the calm, steady connection between equals. When couples have been together for years and the fire of passion cools, philia is often what remains. She may still love you in this way, but it's not the kind of love that stops her from seeking passion elsewhere. The third is storge. This is the natural affection between parents and children. It's unconditional, uncalculated, and not based on merit. A woman can feel this deeply for her kids and still feel nothing but emptiness for her partner. The fourth is agape. This is the selfless, giving love, like the love of God for humanity. It's love without expectation, offered freely. Some women hold on to agape as a principle, even while betraying you in practice. Now, here's the kicker. When you ask a woman if she still loves you, she might genuinely mean it. She may be offering you philia, when what you desperately want is eros. She may see no contradiction in her actions, because her definition of love doesn't match yours. Meanwhile, you're left confused, trying to reconcile words with actions that don't line up. That's why so many men stay in relationships long after trust is broken. They hear, "I love you," and they hang on to it like a life raft. They don't realize those words can be true in her mind and false in reality at the same time. That's the blind spot. That's where men get trapped. Understand this. Love, in the way she defines it, is not a guarantee of loyalty. If you keep believing it is, you'll never see the betrayal coming until it's too late. Now that you understand why love doesn't always mean loyalty, let's cut straight into the 3 real reasons women cheat. Number 1, when she craves variety and feels starved. You've probably heard the old cliché. Men cheat for variety, women cheat for emotion. And most men nod along, thinking women are naturally more loyal, that they don't crave change the way men do. That's one of the most dangerous lies you can believe. Because here's the truth. Women also crave variety. They just mask it better. When a woman feels starved inside her relationship, whether it's physical closeness or emotional attention, she starts looking outward. And unlike men, who might pursue novelty for the thrill alone, women often justify it as a way to fill a gap. She tells herself she's not abandoning her marriage or her partner. She's simply outsourcing what she's not getting at home. Picture this. She still cooks dinner. She still tucks the kids into bed. She still smiles across the table at you. On the surface, she looks like the perfect wife. But late at night, while you're snoring in bed, she's texting another man. Not because she doesn't care about her family, but because the hunger inside her has grown unbearable. That quiet longing becomes a secret life. This is where men get blindsided. You think as long as you're providing, as long as the bills are paid, you're doing your job. But relationships don't run on autopilot. If she feels unseen, untouched, or emotionally ignored, she will find someone who makes her feel alive again. It's not about whether you're a good man. It's about whether you're meeting the needs she values most. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't excuse betrayal. It explains the psychology. A woman might stay in her marriage for years while secretly feeding her desire elsewhere. She convinces herself she's protecting her family, that this double life is the lesser evil. She gets to keep her stability while chasing her cravings in the shadows. The irony is brutal. She can justify it in her mind as a way of saving the relationship. If I can just get this need met somewhere else, I won't have to leave him. Meanwhile, you're being quietly replaced, not all at once, but piece by piece. By the time you notice, the emotional bond between you is already cracked beyond repair. Here's the lesson. When you don't step up to fulfill her emotional and intimate needs, someone else will. That's not fear-mongering. That's reality. And the men who ignore it are the ones who wake up one day realizing their loyal partner has been living a second life right under their nose. Number 2, when her love and respect for you slowly fade away. A woman almost never leaves suddenly. Long before she walks out of the house with her suitcase, she's already walked out in her heart. That's the cruel difference men rarely see coming. By the time you notice her coldness, her distance, or her silence, she's been detaching for months, sometimes years. It doesn't always start with another man. It often starts with you. Maybe you thought you were being a strong leader, but you slipped into control. Maybe you thought being busy at work was noble, but she felt invisible. Maybe you assumed love was permanent, so you stopped putting effort into the small gestures that once made her light up. Whatever the reason, the slow erosion of respect is what kills her love. On the outside, she might keep smiling. She'll say, "I'm fine." She'll laugh at family gatherings. She'll go through the motions of being your partner. But inside, there's a widening emptiness, a void where affection used to live. She no longer looks at you with admiration. She looks at you like a burden, like someone she has to endure. And here's the chilling part. Once a woman loses respect for you, regaining it is nearly impossible. That's why, for many women, cheating becomes less about pleasure and more about escape. It's not always a sudden spark with another man. It's the slow drip of disappointment, the suffocating weight of unmet needs, until she convinces herself, "I deserve to feel alive again." When her respect dies, when her affection dries up, the door to betrayal opens wide. This is why men often feel blindsided. You thought things were fine. She told you they were. But women are experts at maintaining the facade while secretly disconnecting. By the time she acts out, she's already built her exit strategy emotionally. Cheating, in this case, isn't random. It's the final step of a long process of detachment. Understand this. Once a woman has emotionally checked out, leaving her will hurt you more than it hurts her, because she's already gone. And if you're blind to the signs, you'll cling to a ghost, wondering how it all crumbled so suddenly. The reality is harsh but simple. Love doesn't die overnight. It withers when respect fades, when admiration is replaced with resentment, when closeness is replaced with silence. And once she crosses that line, betrayal isn't a question of if, It's a matter of when. Number 3. When fear and circumstances push her into someone else's arms. Not every act of betrayal comes from passion. Sometimes it's born out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear of financial instability. Of raising kids without support. Of what friends or family will say. A woman doesn't always cheat because she's deeply in love with someone else. Sometimes she cheats because she feels trapped and powerless in the life she already has. This is where the psychology of safety nets comes in. Instead of walking away, she clings to the stability you provide while secretly building a backup plan with someone else. She doesn't see it as abandoning you. She sees it as cushioning her fall. That third party becomes a transition, a soft landing zone she can step into when the weight of her unhappiness becomes unbearable. It can be as subtle as venting to another man after a fight. You might dismiss it as just talking, but over time, that outlet grows into a bond. That bond becomes her lifeline. And before you know it, the arguments you brushed off at home are fueling the intimacy she's building elsewhere. Every misunderstanding, every cold night of silence, every careless word, it all pushes her closer to someone who feels safer, kinder, or simply more attentive. The tragedy is that in her mind, this makes sense. She tells herself she's protecting her family by not filing for divorce. She convinces herself she's doing the responsible thing by staying, while still reaching for a connection that keeps her sane. But what she doesn't admit is that each step she takes with him is one step further away from you. This is why some men feel completely blindsided when the breakup finally comes. From your perspective, it might look like she left suddenly. From hers, she's been preparing her escape for months, maybe even years. That other man wasn't just a fling. He was the bridge she built to walk away from you without ever feeling the free fall of being alone. Here's the brutal truth. When a woman feels unsafe, emotionally or practically, she won't always walk out the front door. Sometimes she slips out through a side exit, into the arms of another man who offers her the illusion of security. And every time you dismiss her concerns, every time you leave conflicts unresolved, you push her closer to that escape route. If you think small fights don't matter, think again. To her, those small fights might be the very moments that decide whether she leans back into you or leans into someone else. This is the part you need to hear carefully, because it might save you years of blindness. Men often ignore the red flags because facing them feels unbearable. You don't want to believe she could betray you. You'd rather accept her excuses, tell yourself you're being paranoid, or hope the tension passes. But denial is the fastest way to become the last man in the room to realize the truth. So pay attention, because these signs, while not absolute, are your early warning system. The first sign. Her phone becomes untouchable. It used to sit on the counter, face up, with no password or maybe just a casual lock. Now it's glued to her hand. She carries it into the bathroom. She sets it face down at dinner. If you reach for it, she reacts like you've violated sacred ground. The phone transforms into a private vault, and the change is sudden. That's not paranoia. That's a shift in behavior. The second sign, mysterious disappearances. There are stretches of time when you simply can't reach her. Calls go unanswered. Messages sit unread. Later, when she finally reappears, her explanations don't add up. She was busy with work, but her story has holes. She was with a friend, but you never hear about that friend again. When a woman becomes unavailable in ways she never was before, that's a signal she's investing her time elsewhere. The third sign, a sudden obsession with her appearance. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look good, but you'll notice the difference. She starts spending extra time getting ready for routine errands. Her wardrobe shifts. Her makeup becomes bolder. The change doesn't align with any life event. No new job, no special occasion. She's reinventing herself. but not for you. The fourth sign, an unexplained shift in attitude. The warmth that once defined her is replaced with distance, irritation, or coldness. Little things you do suddenly annoy her. The way she talks to you changes, sharper, more dismissive. These aren't random mood swings. They're the result of emotional detachment. She's already transferring her affection somewhere else, and you're left with the scraps. The fifth sign, lies, even about small things. You catch her stories not lining up. She gives unnecessary details to cover her tracks. Sometimes the lies are so minor you wonder why she'd bother. But that's the point. Dishonesty becomes a habit, a reflex, because she's already living a double life. If she can't be honest about the small stuff, don't fool yourself into thinking she's telling the truth about the big things. The sixth sign, communication collapses. Remember when you used to talk daily, share jokes, or check in on each other? Now you're begging for scraps of her attention. Conversations are short, distracted, or forced. Calls go unanswered. Texts get one-word replies. That's not busyness. That's disinterest. Communication is the lifeline of a relationship, and when she cuts it, you're watching the cord being severed in real time. Individually, each of these signs might have an innocent explanation. A locked phone doesn't prove betrayal. A new wardrobe could just be self-care. But when these behaviors cluster together, when secrecy, distance, and lies start stacking up, the odds shift dramatically. You're no longer looking at coincidences. You're looking at patterns. And here's the critical part. Your gut will usually sense it before your mind accepts it. Men often silence that instinct because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be controlling or jealous. But ignoring your gut is how you end up blindsided. Trust your instincts. They're not perfect, but they're rarely wrong. The moment you see multiple signs stacking up, stop hoping it's nothing. Start paying attention. Write it down. Observe. Protect yourself. Because the cost of denial isn't just heartbreak. It's years of wasted time, dignity, and energy invested in someone who already checked out. Men and women don't cheat the same way. That's one of the most dangerous misconceptions you can hold. When a man cheats, it's often impulsive. It can be driven by desire, opportunity, or ego. He can step outside the relationship and then step right back in, without much emotional attachment to the person he cheated with. That doesn't make it harmless, but it does make it different. Women operate differently. For most women, cheating is rarely a spontaneous accident. It's a process, a build-up. They think about it, wrestle with it, justify it. By the time she crosses the line, she's already been halfway gone for a long time. She's not just chasing a thrill, she's seeking connection, validation, or an exit. That's why when women cheat, it often cuts deeper. Because it's not just physical, it's emotional. This is what most men fail to grasp. You catch her, and you think it's just like when a guy slips up at a bar or on a business trip. You tell yourself, if she just stops, we can fix this. But what you don't see is that her betrayal is layered with months, maybe years, of emotional detachment. She didn't stumble into someone else's arms. She walked there step by step, while you were still convinced everything was fine. That's why, when men finally uncover the truth, it feels like a bomb has gone off. You thought you were losing her attention slowly. In reality, you lost her heart long before you discovered the evidence. By the time she's physically unfaithful, the emotional bridge back to you is already burned. Here's the harsh reality. Women rarely cheat without feelings, and those feelings don't just vanish once the affair is exposed. That's why so many men struggle to win her back after betrayal, while she feels almost relieved it's out in the open. For her, the act of cheating wasn't the beginning of the end. It was the conclusion of a long, silent journey away from you. So stop comparing male and female infidelity as if they're the same animal. They're not. A man can sometimes compartmentalize, detach, and move on. A woman, once she's crossed that line, has usually invested her heart elsewhere. And once her heart is gone, what's left for you is a body that stays out of convenience, but a spirit that's already miles away. If you want to protect yourself, you need to stop projecting your idea of cheating onto her. You need to see it for what it is. A different, deeper kind of betrayal. One that doesn't just steal loyalty, but steals the very bond you thought was unbreakable. Now you've seen the reality for what it is. Women don't just cheat out of nowhere. It happens in 3 powerful scenarios. When she craves variety and feels starved in the relationship, when her love and respect for you fade into silence, and when fear or circumstances push her to build a secret exit plan. Add to that the subtle warning signs, the locked phone, the sudden disappearances, the shift in appearance, the lies, the coldness, the collapse of communication, and you have a map of betrayal unfolding right in front of you. But here's the gut punch. Men are almost always the last to know. She's been preparing, planning, and detaching long before you saw the smoke. By the time you confront her, the fire has already burned through the foundation. That's why so many men feel blindsided, not because the signs weren't there, but because they refused to see them. The truth is brutal but freeing. You cannot control whether a woman chooses to betray you. You cannot force loyalty out of someone who has already left in her heart. What you can control is your awareness, your standards, and your response. You can choose to stop ignoring your gut. You can choose to pay attention to patterns instead of excuses. And most importantly, you can choose not to beg for the scraps of love from someone who has already handed them to another man. If you've been nodding through this video, it's because you recognize the patterns. Maybe you've lived them. Maybe you're living them right now. Don't let denial destroy years of your life. Stand tall, face the truth, and protect your dignity. Because no matter how painful it feels to confront, it will never hurt as much as staying blind. If this video hit you hard, that means it was meant for you. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with another man who needs to wake up. And if you want more raw truths about women, relationships, and the psychology of power in love, subscribe to this channel. Like, comment, share. Because every time a man learns this truth, that's one more man who refuses to be led by illusions. You could be lying next to a woman every night and not realize she's already gone. She smiles. She says goodnight. She shares your table. But her mind is elsewhere. The scariest part? She won't tell you directly. She'll drop tiny phrases, soft words that sound harmless, but are really her way of pulling away while keeping you blind. And while you wait, hoping it's just a phase, you're losing respect, losing dignity, and losing your place in her life. I'm about to walk you through the 7 phrases women use when they're already leaving you, without admitting it. Once you know them, you'll stop being blindsided and start seeing the truth for what it is. Before I walk you through these 7 phrases, let's connect for a moment. Subscribe if you haven't yet, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to see just how far this message is reaching, and I'm excited to see our community growing stronger every day. Now let's get back to the story, because what you're about to hear is the first phrase women use when they're already leaving without saying a word. Number 1. I feel disconnected. You hear that line, and your first instinct is to fix it. You start scrolling through memories for what you did wrong, promising yourself you'll talk more, plan a weekend, try harder in bed, be sweeter at dinner. Stop. That sentence is rarely the beginning of a problem. It's the quiet announcement that her attraction has already moved. When a woman still burns for you, connection doesn't need a speech. It shows up as eye contact, playful touch, impatience to be alone with you. Disconnected appears when the closeness has faded and she wants a soft exit ramp. Here's the psychology. People avoid saying, I don't want you the way I used to. It threatens their self-image and invites accountability. So the mind reaches for a spiritual-sounding wrapper. Disconnection. It feels honest without being specific. Notice the supporting signals. Her replies get polite. Her phone becomes a tiny fortress. She doesn't initiate intimacy. Compliments stop. She's oddly energized for everyone but you. That's not a mystery. That's redirected desire. The impact on you is brutal if you handle it wrong. You interpret disconnected as a call to perform. You over-communicate, over-explain, over-promise. Translation to her nervous system: he's chasing my distance, not leading. Your value drops because you're negotiating for the very thing that used to be given freely. The more you plead, the less she feels. So you respond like a man who reads the room, not like a man who begs for it to change. Your testing move is simple and firm. I hear you. I want us to be clear, not confused. Let's set aside time this weekend for a real conversation about what's changed. I'll schedule it. You're calm, you're kind, and you're in control of the frame. You offer a container where honesty has to show up. No lectures, no guilt, a clear appointment with reality. What happens next tells you everything. If she leans in, keeps the appointment, brings specifics, shows willingness to rebuild, great. Now you can co-create a plan. Transparency with devices, genuine effort toward intimacy, shared routines that relight attraction. But if she dodges, postpones, or returns with vague poetry, I just need to feel more aligned, read the verdict. Avoidance is an answer. Misdirection is an answer. A woman who wants you will risk discomfort to keep you. Your decisive move, then, is dignity, not drama. If we can't have clarity, I won't live in confusion. I'm stepping back. You don't punish, you protect your center. You reduce availability, stop performing for crumbs, and end the open tab on your attention. Because a relationship can survive conflict, it cannot survive indifference disguised as wisdom. You're not here to be managed. You're here to be met. Number 2, I need time for myself. At first, that phrase sounds reasonable. We all need space. We all need moments alone. But in relationships, timing and context change everything. A woman doesn't usually say this when things are stable, connected, and alive. She says it when her attention has already begun to drift, when there's a new spark pulling her thoughts away from you. Time for myself often isn't about meditation retreats or self-discovery. It's about emotional freedom to explore without accountability. Here's the psychology. Human beings hate to admit betrayal outright, so the mind dresses it up. Instead of, I want distance because someone else excites me, she frames it as, I need space to find myself. This softens the guilt and makes her sound noble, even spiritual. Meanwhile, you're left thinking you should be patient, supportive, the understanding partner. But what's really happening is she's asking for freedom with a safety net. She wants to hold on to your loyalty while testing the thrill of disloyalty. The impact on you is dangerous if you misinterpret it. Too many men nod along. Of course, take all the time you need. I'll wait. That isn't love. That's self-abandonment. You become a placeholder, a backup plan, a man in suspension while she auditions a new life. The more you tolerate this fog, the less respect she has for you. Because the truth is simple. Desire doesn't ask for permission. If she wanted you, she wouldn't need time. She would need you. So how do you respond without falling into desperation? You use the testing strategy. Calmly, without sarcasm, you say, I respect your need for space. But I need clarity. Does this time mean we're still moving forward together, or does it mean you've already checked out? Be honest so I know how to act. That statement shows strength. You're not forbidding her, but you're also not blind. You're requiring definition. It's a boundary disguised as a question. Now watch carefully. If she engages honestly, if she defines what she wants and demonstrates effort to keep you close, then maybe there's a path to rebuild. But if she stays vague, I don't know, I just need to think. Recognize that vagueness is the answer. The fog is her cover. A woman invested in you doesn't hide behind smoke. She steps into the fire with you. And if the avoidance continues, here's your decisive move. You don't wait, you don't beg, you don't play the obedient man on standby. You say, if this time means uncertainty, then I choose certainty. I won't stay in limbo. Then step back with composure. That is not cruelty, it's clarity. Because the man who tolerates endless me time slowly loses his own time, his dignity, and eventually his soul. Number 3, not everything has to be physical. On the surface, that line sounds wise. It carries a calm, almost spiritual tone. And of course, intimacy isn't the only measure of love. But here's the catch. When attraction is alive, no one needs to explain it. Desire flows naturally. Touches happen. Closeness feels effortless. Kisses are spontaneous. The moment she starts announcing that not everything has to be physical, it usually means something has already shifted. She's rationalizing the absence of desire. Psychologically, this is a shield. Saying it allows her to reduce the importance of closeness without admitting where her attention is going. It reframes you as the needy one, the shallow one, while she plays the enlightened role. Meanwhile, her body language tells the real story. Short hugs, quick kisses, avoidance of intimacy, excuses about fatigue or stress. Her desire isn't gone. It's just not directed at you anymore. That's the hard truth most men refuse to face. The impact on you can be devastating. You start questioning yourself. Am I being too demanding? Am I insensitive? You stop initiating because you don't want to appear pushy. Slowly, you settle into the role of roommate instead of lover. And once that shift cements, you're not her man anymore. You're her provider, her friend, her safe background noise. All while someone else is awakening the very fire she denies exists. So how do you cut through the fog? You test without aggression. You say, I agree, not everything has to be physical, but intimacy is an essential part of our bond. I want to know, do you still want that closeness with me? Direct, calm, unflinching. You're not begging for validation. You're requesting clarity, and her answer or her silence reveals more than any excuse. If she reassures you and actively participates in reconnecting, if effort shows up in both her words and her body, you've got something to work with. But if she dodges, minimizes, or guilt trips you, you're making too much of this. Take note, that isn't enlightenment. That's avoidance. That's her way of preserving the appearance of partnership while secretly withdrawing from it. Your decisive move, if the truth is clear, is simple. You stop negotiating for intimacy that should be mutual. You refuse to play therapist while another man plays lover. You say, if desire isn't here, I won't pretend it is. And then you act accordingly, by stepping back, reclaiming your self-worth, and refusing to live as a shadow of the man you once were. Because a bond without closeness isn't noble. It's empty. And an empty bond will eat you alive if you keep feeding it with denial. Number 4. You've changed too. This one is sly because it sounds fair. Relationships do involve change. But when she drops this line in the middle of distance and fading desire, it's not about fairness, it's about balance of guilt. She's laying down an alibi. If you ever confront her about pulling away, about talking to someone else, about her coldness, she already has a ready-made defense. Well, you changed first. It shifts the spotlight from her choices to your supposed failures. Here's the psychology at play. When someone feels trapped between who they appear to be and what they secretly want, they invent a narrative that makes them the victim. Blame is the quickest way to justify betrayal. By telling you you've changed, she creates a script where she is reacting, not acting. It allows her to disconnect with less shame. It also plants a seed in your mind that maybe her distance is your fault. And once you buy into that, she's free to keep detaching without resistance. The impact on you is corrosive. Instead of standing firm, you begin apologizing for things you didn't even do. You replay your routines, your habits, your tone of voice, wondering where you slipped. You bend over backward, trying to prove you're still the man she fell for. But the tragedy is this. The more you try to prove it, the more she feels confirmed that you've indeed lost your edge. You become a defendant in a court, where the verdict was written long before the trial began. So how do you turn this around? You test with strength. Look her in the eye and say, "Yes, I have changed. Now tell me exactly what you mean. What have you noticed?" That response does two things. First, it disarms the vague accusation. Second, it puts the responsibility on her to provide evidence instead of throwing smoke. A partner invested in truth will get specific. She'll bring up habits, patterns, moments that can be discussed. But someone hiding behind manipulation will stay foggy, repeating the same line without substance. Now, if she dodges, "I can't explain. It's just a feeling." That's your answer. She doesn't want clarity. She wants cover. And when cover becomes the theme, the relationship isn't about connection anymore. It's about her building an exit ramp while keeping her conscience intact. Your decisive move is to reclaim the frame. Yes, I've changed. I no longer tolerate vague blame. I don't play the guilty man when I've done nothing wrong. That statement flips the script. You're not the defendant. You're the judge of your own dignity. And once you refuse to carry false guilt, you step out of her emotional trap. Because the moment you stop accepting accusations without proof, you stop being her excuse, and you start being your own man again. Number 5. I don't want to talk right now, I'm tired. Every couple has tired nights, but when this phrase becomes a pattern, it's not about exhaustion. It's about escape. She isn't just tired, she's tired of you. That's the hard truth most men try to ignore. When a woman still desires you, she finds energy for conversation, for laughter, even for arguments. She might be exhausted from work, but one text from you can spark life again. When she starts using "I'm tired" as a shield, what she's really saying is, "I don't care enough to deal with you." Here's the psychology. Avoidance is a slow form of exit. Instead of facing discomfort directly, she hides behind fatigue. It's non-confrontational, safe, and socially acceptable. Who can argue against someone being tired? It buys her time, and it slowly conditions you to stop expecting communication. Over weeks, this becomes progressive disengagement, her quiet way of turning the lights off on the relationship without admitting it. The impact on you is subtle but destructive. At first, you excuse it. She had a hard day, let her rest. Then you excuse it again. Before long, every meaningful conversation is postponed. You start to feel invisible. Your concerns shrink because you don't want to be pushy. The relationship slips into silence, and you end up living beside someone who no longer engages with you at all. And here's the kicker. Her energy isn't gone, it's redirected. She has energy to text someone else at midnight, but not to hear you out at 9 p.m. So what's the move? You don't throw a tantrum and you don't roll over either. You test. You say, "All right, rest tonight. But we need to sit down this weekend for a serious talk about the distance between us. I'll set the time." That line communicates two things: empathy and authority. You're not heartless, but you're also not a fool. You create a deadline for honesty, and you claim the role of the one steering the ship. Now, if she agrees and actually shows up for that talk, you'll know whether there's effort left. If she brings specifics, if she opens up, maybe the bond can be salvaged. But if she dodges again, cancels, or keeps pushing the talk into a vague future, the message is crystal clear. She's not interested in rebuilding. She just wants to avoid responsibility while you wither away. Your decisive move then is firm. If the conversations that matter never happen, then this relationship doesn't matter either. You don't have to shout. You don't have to beg. You simply stop investing in a dynamic where silence is the new intimacy. Because a man who keeps tolerating "I'm tired" as a permanent excuse doesn't just lose his partner, he loses himself. And you're not here to live half alive beside someone who already left in spirit. Number 6. I don't know what's going on with you. This one sounds innocent, even playful. She says it with a tilted head, maybe a small laugh, as if she's confused by your presence. But don't be fooled. This phrase is rarely about genuine confusion. It's a maneuver. It flips the script and puts you on the defensive. Suddenly, you're the mystery, the unpredictable one, while she sits in the position of observer. It feels flattering in the moment, but underneath, it's an emotional trap. Psychologically, this is a projection tactic. She knows exactly what's going on. Her desire is fading, her attention is wandering, her energy is moving elsewhere. But admitting that would require honesty and accountability. So instead, she disguises it as curiosity about you. By saying she doesn't understand what's happening with you, she places the responsibility and the tension on your shoulders. Now you feel pressure to explain yourself, to perform clarity, to prove you're not the one making things strange. The impact on you is subtle but powerful. You get hooked by the ambiguity. You wonder if she's seeing something you can't. You start analyzing yourself, trying to adjust to a criticism that was never concrete. And in that loop, you lose your position as the leader of your own life. You stop being the man who decides, and you become the man who reacts. That shift alone can drain your confidence and make you easy to manipulate. So how do you handle it? You test, you don't take the bait. You respond with calm precision. I see things clearly. We're drifting apart. If you think otherwise, then let's sit down and define what's really happening. I don't play in the gray zone. That answer does two things. It asserts your clarity and challenges her to bring something real to the table. You're not confused, and you're not willing to be toyed with. If she meets you in that clarity, if she actually talks, brings details and shows she wants to rebuild, then maybe there's room to fix the bond. But if she keeps circling back to the same vagueness, if she dodges or laughs it off, understand this. She's not looking for truth. She's using haze to keep you on the hook while she feeds her energy elsewhere. Your decisive move is simple. You don't wrestle with fog. You say, if we can't have clarity, then I won't stay in confusion. Then you act on it by stepping back, reclaiming your time, and refusing to be cast as the problem when the problem is her lack of honesty. Because a real man doesn't waste himself decoding games. He demands straight talk, or he walks. Number 7. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Out of all the lines, this one is the most polished. It's been rehearsed, recycled, and passed around in countless breakups. At first, it sounds gentle. She still loves you. She still cares. But look closer. It's an emotional execution wrapped in pretty paper. What she's really saying is, you're safe, you're familiar, but you no longer light me up. It's not affection. It's pity. And pity is not the soil where attraction grows. Here's the psychology. Human beings hate being the villain. This phrase allows her to leave while keeping her image intact. By splitting love into two categories, love as care and in love as passion, she creates a loophole. She can tell herself she's being honest, even compassionate, while still pulling away. The truth is, when desire dies, the words, "I love you," become a tranquilizer. They numb the pain long enough for her to step out without looking cold-hearted. The impact on you is devastating if you take it at face value. You hear, "I love you," and cling to it like a lifeline. You convince yourself there's still something worth saving. You double your efforts. More gifts, more dinners, more surprises, thinking you can reignite the flame. But the more you try, the more invisible you become, because she doesn't need more of your effort. She's already given her emotional effort to someone else, even if it's only in her fantasies. So what do? You test. Not with flowers or speeches, but with clarity. You say, if that's how you feel, I need to know. Are you willing to rebuild with me, or are you already gone? That question forces a choice. It removes the comfort of half-truths. A woman who truly wants to work it out will step forward and commit. But if she hesitates, if she mutters, I'm not sure, or I need to find my feelings, recognize what's being said between the lines. She's telling you goodbye without owning the word. And that's where your decisive move comes in. You don't plead. You don't compete with ghosts. You look her in the eye and say, I wasn't born to be loved halfway. Then you step back, not with bitterness, but with dignity. Because staying after that line is self-betrayal. It's choosing the role of furniture in her life while she searches for fire elsewhere. And you, my friend, are not furniture. You're a man. And a man with self-respect never accepts a love that arrives with disclaimers. You've just heard the 7 phrases that every man needs to recognize. None of them are harmless. None of them are accidents. Each one, I feel disconnected. I need time for myself. Not everything has to be physical. You've changed too. I'm tired. I don't know what's going on with you. And I love you, but I'm not in love with you, is a signal. Together they form a pattern, the slow withdrawal of a woman who no longer chooses you, but doesn't want to be the villain in the story. And here's the truth that most men miss. If you ignore these signals, you're not just unlucky, you're complicit. Because once you've seen the signs, staying blind is a choice. Too many men fall into the trap of comforting lies. They wait, they excuse, they overcompensate. They trade their dignity for crumbs of attention. That's not loyalty, that's self-destruction. The smarter move isn't to explode or to beg, it's to test. Every phrase can be answered with clarity. Set the talk, demand specifics, ask the hard question. Not in anger, not in panic, but in calm strength. That's how you find out if there's anything real left, or if she's already gone in spirit. And once the truth shows itself, you act. You don't live in limbo. You don't settle for half a bond. You decide. Because a relationship can survive arguments, routine, even conflict. What it cannot survive is indifference, wrapped in polite excuses. And a man who accepts excuses instead of truth is not a partner. He's a placeholder. You're not here to be a placeholder. You're here to be chosen fully by someone who still feels fire for you. So here's your next step. Comment below. I see the signs clearly now. Subscribe to this channel if you want more tools to protect your mind, your dignity, and your future. Share this video with that friend who keeps justifying the unjustifiable. Let him hear what you just heard. Because men who wake up don't chase shadows. They don't beg for clarity. They don't settle for pity disguised as love. They test. They confirm. And when the truth is out, they choose themselves. That's not arrogance, it's self-respect. And self-respect is the one thing no one can take from you unless you give it away. Have you ever felt something was off with her, but the moment you brought it up, she flipped it back on you? That's not reassurance. That's strategy. When a woman is cheating with someone you know, she doesn't confess. She covers it up with words designed to silence your instincts. And here's the danger. If you miss these signals, you're not just losing her, you're being replaced by someone you trusted. That's betrayal stacked on betrayal. But you don't have to walk blind into it. Because women who cross that line all use the same set of phrases, like a script. Today, I'll reveal the 10 things she'll say that prove she's cheating with someone close to you. Before we dive in, let's make this interactive. If you're serious about spotting hidden manipulation, subscribe now, hit that like button, and answer me in the comments with a simple yes or no. Have you ever trusted your instincts but got told you were overreacting? Keep watching, because the first phrase I'm about to expose is the most common one women use to shut down your suspicions, and most men never realize what's happening. Number 1. You're being paranoid. When a woman looks you in the eye and throws this line at you, don't dismiss it as a casual remark. This is one of the oldest tricks in the book. She is not reassuring you. She is not easing your mind. She is planting doubt, making you question your own instincts. That's gaslighting, plain and simple. Think about it. You notice subtle changes. Her phone is suddenly off limits. Her mood shifts. Her schedule becomes unpredictable. You point it out, hoping for an honest conversation. Instead of addressing your concern, she flips it back on you with, "You're being paranoid." What just happened? She turned your awareness into a weakness. Now you're on the defensive, trying to prove you're not crazy, while she slips away with her story intact. And here's the harsh reality. If she's cheating with someone you know, a coworker, a so-called family friend, she desperately needs you to stop digging. The more questions you ask, the closer you get to exposing what's really happening. So she uses language, not silence, to shut you down. That phrase is her shield, not her truth. Here's what you need to remember. Your intuition is not your enemy. It's your early warning system. A man who ignores it sets himself up for betrayal he could have seen coming. So when she says you're paranoid, pause. Don't argue. Don't defend yourself. Step back, watch patterns, and let her behavior tell the story. Actions will always reveal more than words. A man who trusts his gut never looks paranoid. He looks prepared. Number 2. He's like a brother to me. The moment a woman feels the need to label a relationship with that much intensity, it should set off alarm bells. Let's be honest, no one calls someone a brother unless there's something they don't want you to question. That phrase isn't about comfort, it's about control. She's building a shield before you even think about raising suspicion. Ask yourself this: why does she need to defend the connection so hard? If it's truly innocent, there's no reason to over-explain. The louder the justification, the more it sounds like a cover. And when the man in question happens to be someone close to you, a friend, a colleague, or part of your circle, that's when the danger is real. She knows you'd never expect betrayal from someone in your inner world, so she hides him behind a label that disarms your instincts. Here's the psychology behind it. She wants to plant an image in your head. He's family, so he's off limits. That way, every time your gut raises a red flag, you silence yourself because she already framed the narrative. It's not reassurance, it's strategy. So what should you do? Don't confront her with anger, and don't swallow the excuse. Instead, pay attention to consistency. Does her behavior with this so-called brother match the label, or is there closeness that crosses the line? Observe how much time she spends, the tone in her voice, the energy she gives. Actions never lie. Remember, a man who respects himself doesn't need to argue about titles. He looks past the words and measures the truth in behavior, and if what you see doesn't align with what she says, you already have your answer. Number 3, you're just insecure. This one is brutal because it cuts straight into a man's pride. When a woman says this, she's not comforting you, she's insulting you. Instead of addressing your concerns, she flips the spotlight onto your supposed weakness. Suddenly, you're no longer questioning her behavior, you're defending your own masculinity. That's not a mistake, that's a tactic. Here's the truth. If she were truly innocent, she would calm your doubts, not attack your character. She would reassure you, not belittle you. But when she calls you insecure, she's setting the stage to silence you permanently. Why? because no man wants to carry that label. The moment you accept it, you stop asking questions. You back down. And that's exactly what she wants if she's hiding a connection with someone in your circle. Think about it. Insecurity is a convenient excuse for her. It makes you the problem, not her actions. She doesn't need to explain the late-night messages or the sudden closeness with that friend. All she has to do is slap the word insecure on you, and the conversation is over. It's emotional manipulation dressed up as honesty. So what's the solution? First, don't react defensively. The more you protest, the more she'll double down. Instead, separate the insult from the reality. Ask yourself, is my concern rooted in clear patterns I've observed, or is it truly baseless? If the signs are there, trust them. You're not insecure for noticing the obvious. You're alert. A man who values himself doesn't accept shame as an answer. He demands respect, clarity, and consistency. And if she refuses to give you that, the insecurity isn't yours. It's hers, hidden behind an attack. Number 4, don't make this weird. This phrase is designed to shut you down in the moment, to make you doubt whether what you're seeing or feeling is even valid. Picture this. You walk into a room and notice her laughing a little too comfortably with a man you both know. Maybe the touch lingers too long, maybe the energy between them feels different. When you raise an eyebrow or question the vibe, she throws out, "Don't make this weird." On the surface, it sounds harmless. In reality, it's a warning shot. She's telling you not to trust your instincts. She wants to normalize behavior that's already pushing past the boundaries of respect. By saying this, she shifts the burden onto you, as if you're the one turning something innocent into something suspicious. But let's be clear. If it truly were innocent, why would she need to say it at all? Here's the psychology at work. She's trying to control the frame. If she convinces you that you're the one overreacting, she gets to keep doing exactly what she's doing, right under your nose. And if the man in question is part of your circle, the betrayal becomes doubly dangerous. You lose not just her honesty, but also the loyalty you thought you had from him. So how do you respond? Don't let the phrase silence you. Don't argue in the heat of the moment either. Simply observe. Set boundaries clearly, not emotionally. A man with standards doesn't apologize for expecting respect. You don't make things weird by noticing disrespect. She makes it weird by crossing the line. At the end of the day, if it feels off, it probably is. Trust your gut, not her deflection. Number 5. I don't know why you don't trust me. On the surface, this line sounds emotional, almost wounded. But don't let the performance fool you. This isn't a cry for understanding. It's guilt-tripping at its finest. Instead of addressing your concerns head-on, she flips the script and makes you the problem. Now, instead of focusing on her suspicious behavior, you're left defending yourself, scrambling to prove that you do trust her. That's the trap. She knows you've noticed the shifts, the late replies, the unexplained closeness with a man in your circle, the subtle changes in energy. Rather than explaining any of it, she leans on this emotional card. Why don't you trust me? It's not an answer, it's a diversion. By framing herself as the victim, she puts you in a position where pressing further makes you look cruel, paranoid, or unloving. Psychologically, this works because most men want to avoid conflict. You don't want to be the bad guy. And so, instead of holding her accountable, you back off. That's exactly what she's counting on. But here's the harsh reality. Trust is not proven by words. It's proven by consistent action. If she has to tell you to trust her instead of showing you why you should, something's already broken. So what's the move? Don't accept guilt as a substitute for clarity. Stay calm. Acknowledge the line, but shift the focus back where it belongs. Behavior. Say less. Observe more. A man who respects himself doesn't hand out trust just because someone demands it. He measures trust by patterns, by transparency, by alignment between words and actions. Trust is earned, not begged for. And if she keeps asking why you don't trust her, maybe the real question is, why should you? Number 6. We just vibe. At first glance, this phrase sounds innocent, almost playful. But let's not sugarcoat it. This is one of the clearest indicators of emotional cheating. When she says we just vibe, she's not describing a harmless friendship. She's admitting there's a connection, a spark, a pull that goes beyond casual. And if the man she's talking about happens to be someone in your world, someone you already know, that's not just chemistry, that's danger. Here's the psychology. Emotional bonds form before physical ones. The phrase, we just vibe, is her way of downplaying intimacy that's already developing. It makes it sound light, like it doesn't mean much. But pay attention. If she feels the need to acknowledge that connection, it's already crossed into territory that threatens your relationship. Emotional cheating is often more dangerous than physical cheating because it plants roots. It builds loyalty and desire in silence, while you're left wondering why she feels distant. The problem isn't the words, it's the pattern. Who is she vibing with late at night? Who gets her inside jokes, her secrets, her energy that should belong to you? Once a woman starts investing emotionally in another man, especially one within your circle, you're no longer her priority. So what do? Don't ignore the red flag just because the word vibe sounds harmless. Step back and assess. Is she sharing more of herself with this person than with you? Is she excusing late calls, private texts, or lingering time together under the blanket of we just vibe? If so, understand that this is no small thing. A man who values himself doesn't compete with another man for his partner's emotional core. He recognizes when the bond has shifted, and he chooses dignity over denial. Number 7. He gets me in a way no one else does. This is not just a phrase, it's a confession. By the time a woman says this out loud, she's already built a deep emotional bridge to another man. And if that man is part of your circle, the betrayal cuts even deeper. This isn't casual, this isn't harmless. It's her way of admitting that someone else has taken the role you're supposed to have. Let's break it down. When she claims another man gets her, what she's really saying is that he understands her needs, her emotions, her inner world better than you do. That's dangerous because emotional connection is the foundation of intimacy. Physical cheating can be impulsive. Emotional cheating is deliberate. It means she's already invested her trust, her thoughts, her loyalty somewhere else. Here's the psychology. Women justify betrayal by framing it as connection. If she convinces herself that this other man understands her in a way you don't, she feels validated in giving him more of herself. It becomes the excuse, the story she tells herself so she doesn't feel guilty. And once that narrative is built, it's hard to compete because she's not looking for facts, she's chasing feelings. So what do you do when you hear this? Don't beg. Don't fight for a place she's already given away. The worst mistake a man can make is trying to outdo another man in winning back her attention. That only lowers your value. Instead, recognize what this really means. She's already replaced you in her mind and her heart. A man of dignity doesn't chase a woman who's emotionally left. He accepts the truth, stands tall, and walks away with his self-respect intact. Because the moment she says another man gets her, she's already told you where her loyalty lies. Number 8. It's not what it looks like. This phrase only shows up when she's been caught in a compromising situation. Maybe you walked in and found her sitting too close with a man you both know. Maybe you noticed a late-night message that popped up at the wrong time. Or maybe someone else mentioned seeing them together. Whatever the trigger, the moment those words come out, it's not what it looks like. You can almost guarantee it's exactly what it looks like. Let's be clear. Innocent people don't need this line. If there's truly nothing going on, Explanations are simple, straightforward, and backed by consistency. But when she scrambles for this phrase, it's because her behavior has crossed the line, and she's desperate to rewrite reality in real time. It's damage control, not honesty. Here's the psychology. In moments of exposure, the brain defaults to survival tactics. She knows you've seen something she can't easily explain, so she leans on ambiguity. It's not what it looks like, buys her time, plants just enough doubt to keep you from acting immediately. The goal isn't to clear her name, it's to stall, hoping you'll second-guess your own eyes. So how do you respond? Don't get dragged into an argument. Don't waste your breath on back-and-forth explanations. Trust what you saw. Observe patterns, document consistency, and let her actions confirm the truth. A man who values himself doesn't need to catch every detail. He only needs to recognize when something doesn't align. Remember this, words can be twisted, but reality cannot. If it looks like betrayal, feels like betrayal, and plays out like betrayal, it usually is. Your strength lies in trusting your perception, not her cover story. Number 9. Why don't you trust my friends? At first, this sounds like a reasonable question, but pay attention. This phrase is rarely about the whole group. It's about one man in particular. By framing it as an attack on all her friends, she hides the one you're really concerned about. Instead of defending her actions, she shifts the conversation into defending her entire circle. That way, you look like the unreasonable one, and the man she's secretly protecting stays out of the spotlight. This is classic misdirection. If she's cheating with someone you know, she can't defend him individually without raising suspicion. So she blends him into the crowd, making it harder for you to isolate the problem. Now, if you question him, you're automatically questioning everyone. Suddenly, you're the bad guy attacking her social life instead of simply addressing one relationship that doesn't sit right. Here's the psychology. Guilt hides in groups. By wrapping this man in the safety of numbers, she buys him cover. And because you don't want to come off as controlling or jealous, you back down. That's exactly what she wants, to keep you quiet while the closeness continues unchecked. So how do you handle it? Don't take the bait. Don't argue about the entire friend group. Narrow your focus. Observe who she defends most fiercely, who gets the most of her time and energy, and who she insists is just like family. You'll find your answer not in the group, but in the individual she's protecting with such intensity. A man who values clarity doesn't get lost in the crowd. He knows that loyalty isn't proven by association, it's proven by consistency. If one friend stands out too much, that's not paranoia. That's your instincts telling you exactly where to look. Number 10. You never listen to me. On the surface, this sounds like a simple complaint, but in reality, it's often a setup. By framing you as emotionally unavailable, she creates the perfect justification for seeking connection somewhere else, sometimes with a man who's been in your circle all along. It's not about communication, it's about rewriting the story so she feels entitled to betray your trust. Think carefully. Everyone argues, and no relationship is perfect. But when this line becomes a theme, not an exception, it's more than frustration. It's a narrative. She's painting you as the man who doesn't care, doesn't hear her, doesn't show up. And once that story is established, she uses it to explain why she's turning to someone else. In her mind, it's not cheating. It's finding what she needs. That's not honesty. That's rationalization. Here's the psychology. People justify their actions to protect themselves from guilt. By blaming you for not listening, she shifts the responsibility. The betrayal no longer feels like her fault. It becomes inevitable. And if the man filling that gap is a friend, co-worker, or someone you already trust, the knife goes in even deeper. So how do you respond? Don't fall into the guilt trap. Don't scramble to prove her wrong by overcompensating. Instead, step back and evaluate the reality. Is this about genuine communication issues, or is it an excuse layered on top of suspicious behavior? If it's the latter, recognize it for what it is: a justification for disloyalty. A man of value doesn't let guilt cloud his judgment. He listens, yes, but he also demands accountability. If her words don't align with her actions, you don't need to explain yourself. You need to decide if she deserves a place in your life at all. Cheating with someone you know is more than betrayal. It's an earthquake that shakes the foundation of your entire life. It's not just her disloyalty you're facing, it's the loss of trust in the people closest to you. That double blow is what makes this form of betrayal so devastating. And the cruel truth is, it rarely starts with obvious actions. It begins with words. The phrases we just covered: "You're being paranoid," "He's like a brother." "We just vibe." These aren't random. They're calculated. They're verbal smokescreens designed to keep you second-guessing yourself while she gets closer to someone you never thought would cross the line. Words become her strongest weapon, because if she can twist your perception, she doesn't need to hide her behavior. She just needs you to doubt your instincts long enough for the damage to be done. But here's the shift you need to make. Stop treating your intuition like an enemy. Stop letting guilt, labels, or accusations of insecurity silence your awareness. A man who trusts himself cannot be manipulated. A man who observes patterns instead of chasing explanations is never blindsided. Understand this: loyalty doesn't need defending, and respect doesn't need excuses. If her words don't match her actions, the gap between them is where the truth lives. And you don't have to chase it. Just pay attention. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you hear one of these phrases, don't ignore it. Don't let it slide. Listen. But also observe. Guard your self-respect like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. If you've ever faced this kind of betrayal, share your story in the comments. Other men need to hear that they're not alone. And if you want to stay ahead of manipulation, subscribe now. Like and share this video with someone you care about, because the harsh reality is, he might be the one who affection or the sudden gifts. You miss the truth screaming at you through her behavior. That's why today, I'm going to walk you through 10 signs that reveal when she's feeling guilty after being unfaithful. Watch closely, because the 7th one is the easiest to notice, and every guilty woman does it. Before we dive into these signs, take a second to subscribe, hit like, and let me know what city you're watching from in the comments. I want to see how far this message is reaching, and I'm truly glad to see our community growing stronger every day. Now, let's break down the very first sign: a sudden flood of affection that feels good, but it could also very well be guilt trying to rewrite the story. Number 1, she suddenly becomes overly affectionate. At first, it feels flattering. She hugs you more, kisses you for no reason, and drops "I love you" texts in the middle of the day. A part of you wants to believe it's just love overflowing. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When someone feels guilty, they often try to tip the scales back in their favor. That extra sweetness may not come from real desire. It comes from guilt trying to patch up the wound. Psychologically, guilt creates imbalance. She knows she crossed a line, and to calm her conscience, she may shower you with affection to convince both you and herself that everything is fine. It's not always about closeness. Many times it's about damage control. The affection isn't spontaneous, it's calculated. It's her way of saying, "Look at how much I love you," so you won't ask what she's been doing when you weren't around. Here's what you need to understand. Real love is consistent. It doesn't appear overnight like a storm of sudden devotion. If her affection skyrockets out of nowhere, without a deeper reason like reconciliation after a fight, it's worth asking yourself what's fueling it. Is it love? or is it guilt? As a man, your job isn't to reject affection, but to observe patterns. If kindness appears suddenly and intensely, but doesn't line up with her usual behavior, don't get lost in the sweetness. Step back, watch carefully, and remember. Over-affection after a betrayal isn't always intimacy. It's often her conscience begging for forgiveness without ever saying the words. Number 2. She starts buying you gifts for no reason. It feels good, doesn't it? She surprises you with a new shirt, that gadget you mentioned once, or tickets to something you like. Out of nowhere, she's acting like the most thoughtful partner alive. A part of you thinks, wow, she must really care. But here's what most men never realize. Sudden generosity is one of guilt's favorite disguises. This is what psychologists call guilt spending. When someone does something they know is wrong, the weight of that guilt can become unbearable. To balance it out, they try to repay without admitting the truth. A new gift is easier than a confession. A surprise dinner is easier than facing what she's done. These gifts aren't about you. They're about her trying to silence her conscience. The danger is simple. Men often confuse gifts with love. You get distracted by the shiny object in front of you and miss the bigger question. Why now? Why is she suddenly so generous? Real affection isn't measured in things. It's measured in consistency, effort, and presence. Here's the mindset you need. Accept the gift, but don't let it blind you. Keep your focus on the behavior behind the gesture. If her generosity appears suddenly after weeks or months of emotional distance, it's not romance. It's reparations. And reparations mean there's a wound she's trying to cover up. Remember this. A gift can never erase betrayal. If you see sudden generosity with no clear reason, it may not be her love speaking. It may be her guilt trying to buy silence. Number 3. She suddenly takes an unusual interest in your day. It starts with small questions. How was work? What did you eat? What time did you get home? On the surface, it looks like she finally cares about the details of your life. You might even feel appreciated for once. But here's where you need to be sharp. When curiosity explodes overnight, it's often not about closeness. It's about covering tracks. Guilt makes people want to shift attention. If she's asking about every little thing in your routine, it's not because she's suddenly fascinated with your office meetings or lunch choices. It's because the more she gets you talking, the less you'll notice what she's hiding. It creates a smokescreen, fake intimacy that distracts you from her own movements. Men often mistake this for genuine care. They feel good when their partner acts more interested than usual. But true interest grows gradually and shows up in follow-up actions, remembering what you said, supporting your goals, or engaging in meaningful conversations. Sudden interrogation-style interest is different. It's shallow, repetitive, and oddly timed. Here's the principle. When someone floods you with questions that don't match their past behavior, don't just answer. Observe. Ask yourself, is she truly connecting with me, or is she redirecting my attention? Real connection makes you feel seen. Fake connection makes you feel distracted. Never confuse surveillance with love. If her sudden interest feels more like an act than a bond, you're not looking at closeness. You're looking at guilt trying to hide in plain sight. Number 4. She gets defensive over simple questions. You ask something harmless like, "Where were you?" or "Who were you with?" And suddenly, it's like you've accused her of a crime. Her tone sharpens, her body stiffens, and instead of answering, she lashes out. You're left wondering why a casual question turned into an argument. Here's the psychology. Guilt breeds paranoia. When someone is hiding something, even the simplest questions feel like an attack. It's not your words that spark the explosion. It's the truth she doesn't want to reveal. Her defensiveness is less about you and more about the silent weight she's carrying inside. The trap most men fall into is reacting emotionally. You start defending yourself, insisting you weren't accusing her. Or worse, you back down and avoid questions altogether. That's exactly what guilt-driven defensiveness feeds on. It trains you to stop asking. Instead, you need to recognize what's really happening. A secure partner can answer calmly. A guilty partner reacts like she's on trial. Watch her nonverbal cues, sudden anger, nervous gestures, or a shift in eye contact. These are signs of internal panic, not honest communication. Here's the rule. Don't argue. Don't chase explanations. Stay calm and observe. The more defensive she gets over questions that shouldn't be threatening, the clearer it becomes that something isn't right. Remember, real trust doesn't break under small questions. If every inquiry feels like a battlefield, you're not dealing with healthy communication. You're dealing with guilt dressed up as outrage. Number 5. She suddenly changes her routine. Out of nowhere, she's cooking dinner more often, suggesting movie nights, or sitting with you to watch the shows she never cared about before. At first, it feels like a dream. She's finally putting in effort, finally acting like the partner you always wanted. But before you get too comfortable, ask yourself, why the sudden shift? Behavioral shifts like these don't usually come from nowhere. When guilt is in play, change is often strategic. She wants to rebuild your sense of security before you even realize it's been broken. Cooking your favorite meal or acting invested in your hobbies becomes a distraction, a way to steer your attention away from the unspoken. It's not growth, it's damage control. Men often misread these moments. You think she's maturing or finally seeing your value. But genuine growth happens gradually, not overnight. If her habits flip like a switch, it's less likely about love and more about fear of being exposed. She's not just adding kindness, she's trying to overwrite suspicion. Your job is not to reject the gesture, but to interpret it correctly. Ask, does this change feel natural, consistent, and sustained, or is it a sudden performance? Real partnership doesn't need to act like theater. Remember this. Routines tell the truth. When they shift suddenly, especially without any conversation or reason, don't be lulled into comfort. It's often not about bonding with you. It's about keeping you from noticing what she's already done. Number 6. She suddenly gives you more freedom than ever before. The woman who once asked where you were going or who you were with now waves you off with a smile. Go out with your friends. I trust you. At first, it feels refreshing. The tension is gone, the jealousy is gone, and for once, she's not keeping tabs on you. But here's the hidden layer. When freedom shows up overnight, it often carries the fingerprints of guilt. Psychologically, this shift can be a form of projection. She knows she's stepped outside the boundaries, and in her mind, giving you more freedom makes things fair. If she crossed the line, then you having the same opportunity somehow clears her conscience. It's not genuine trust. It's a trade-off in her head. I did it, so maybe he should too. Many men misinterpret this as growth, thinking their partner has finally matured and let go of insecurity. But real trust builds slowly through consistency and honesty. Sudden freedom, especially when it replaces years of possessiveness, isn't a gift. It's a red flag. Here's how to approach it. Enjoy the freedom, but don't ignore the context. Ask yourself why the change happened now. Did something shift in the relationship dynamic? Or is it simply her guilt rewriting the rules? Remember, real trust doesn't appear overnight. If she suddenly loosens her grip without explanation, it's not about respect. It's about evening the score. Freedom should feel like a choice rooted in love, not a desperate attempt to balance betrayal. Number 7, she flips her behavior with her phone. At first, she guards it like a safe. The phone never leaves her hand. It's face down on the table, locked with new passwords, and any notification sends her rushing to check. Then suddenly, the script flips. The phone is left lying around unlocked, casually placed where you can see it. She even encourages you to use it if you need to. On the surface, it looks like transparency. But here's the truth. It's often just another layer of guilt management. This shift is strategic. Right after betrayal, paranoia makes her hide everything. But when guilt sets in, she knows secrecy raises suspicion. So she does the opposite. She leaves her phone open, creating the illusion of trust, all while knowing she's already erased what matters. It's not real openness. It's theater designed to rebuild your confidence. Most men fall for it. They see the phone lying around and think, if she were hiding something, she wouldn't do that. But understand this, by the time she leaves her phone in plain sight, the evidence is usually gone. What you're seeing isn't honesty, it's performance. Here's your move. Don't be distracted by appearances. Observe the timing. Did she switch from hyper-protective to overly relaxed without explanation? If yes, don't assume you've regained trust. Real openness doesn't flip like a light switch. Remember this. When someone goes out of their way to look trustworthy, it's often because they're desperate for you not to look deeper. Number 8. She suddenly starts overpraising you. Out of nowhere, you're the best man she's ever met. You're the strongest, the kindest, the only one who truly understands her. Every conversation turns into a speech about how amazing you are. It feels good, almost intoxicating. But let's cut through the noise. When compliments come flooding in without reason, they're often less about love and more about guilt. Psychologically, this is overcompensation. Deep down, she knows she's done something that contradicts her words. To silence that inner conflict, she drowns you in praise. The more she says you're perfect, the easier it is for her to pretend she hasn't betrayed that perfection. Praise becomes her shield against her own conscience. Here's where men get trapped. We love recognition. When someone tells us we're great, we drop our guard. That's exactly why guilt uses flattery as a weapon. If she can keep you basking in her words, you'll be too distracted to notice the cracks in her behavior. Your responsibility is not to reject praise, but to measure it. Ask yourself, is this praise consistent with her past behavior, or is it suddenly overwhelming? Real respect doesn't need exaggeration. It shows up in actions, not just speeches. Remember this. When admiration feels inflated, it's usually not a reflection of your greatness. It's a reflection of her guilt. Don't confuse flattery with loyalty. If her words sound like a performance, that's exactly what they are. Number 9. She shows sudden bursts of sadness or anxiety. You notice her staring off into space, wiping away random tears, or snapping under pressure that doesn't make sense. She blames it on work stress, hormones, or just feeling off. But the timing is strange. The emotions seem to come out of nowhere, and they don't line up with the circumstances. What you're witnessing may not be random mood swings, it may be guilt taking its toll. Psychologically, guilt is heavy. It doesn't just sit quietly in the mind, it leaks into emotions. When someone carries a secret that clashes with their identity, it creates internal conflict. That conflict often shows up as unexplained sadness, irritability, or stress. She's not crying because of you. She's crying because her conscience won't let her rest. Here's where men go wrong. They rush in to fix it. You hug her, reassure her, or bend over backwards to lift her mood. But when guilt is the root cause, your comfort doesn't solve anything. It only gives her a temporary escape while the truth keeps eating at her. The smarter move is to step back and observe. Do these emotional breakdowns happen more often after suspicious changes in behavior? Do they appear with no clear trigger? If yes, don't ignore the pattern. Remember, genuine stress has clear sources: work deadlines, family issues, health concerns. But guilt-driven emotions erupt unpredictably. If her sadness feels misplaced and disproportionate, it's not random. It's the weight of betrayal pressing down, and it's a sign you can't afford to overlook. Number 10. She starts bringing up cheating indirectly. You're watching a movie together, and suddenly she comments, "I can't believe someone would cheat on their partner like that." Or she brings up a friend's story of betrayal, shaking her head in disgust. On the surface, it sounds like she's condemning disloyalty. But pay attention. When someone repeatedly talks about cheating out of nowhere, it's often more than commentary. It's confession in disguise. Psychologically, guilt looks for release. Carrying a secret creates unbearable tension, and indirect speech becomes a safety valve. By criticizing someone else's betrayal, she distances herself from her own actions while secretly acknowledging them. It's a way of confessing without ever being held accountable. Many men dismiss these moments, thinking, "At least she's against cheating." But the irony is, the louder she condemns it in others, the more likely she's trying to silence the voice inside her. Her comments aren't casual. They're a mirror of her own conscience. Here's the key. Don't ignore these disguised confessions. When a woman repeatedly brings up betrayal in conversations that don't call for it, that's not random. That's her guilt leaking through. Your response doesn't have to be confrontation. It should be observation. Connect the dots between her words and her actions. If talk of cheating coincides with other suspicious shifts in behavior, you're not just listening to commentary. You're listening to guilt, speaking in code. Remember this: indirect confessions are still confessions. Ignore them, and you risk missing the clearest sign her conscience will ever give you. When you step back and look at all these signs together, a pattern begins to form. One random gift doesn't mean betrayal. A single burst of affection doesn't prove guilt. But when these behaviors stack up, when she suddenly becomes overly affectionate, showers you with gifts, asks endless questions, gets defensive, shifts her routine, grants you freedom, flips her phone habits, overpraises you, breaks down emotionally, and brings up cheating out of nowhere, then it's no longer coincidence. It's a story her behavior is telling you, even if her words never will. Here's the harsh truth most men don't want to hear. Guilt changes behavior, and once it sets in, it bleeds into everything. You don't need a confession to know something is off. You just need to pay attention, connect the dots, and trust your instincts. But this isn't about turning paranoid or living in constant suspicion. It's about reclaiming your awareness. Too many men ignore their gut because they want to avoid conflict. They accept gifts, enjoy the sudden affection, and swallow the overpraise because it feels good. Meanwhile, they miss the bigger picture. Don't let comfort blind you to reality. If you see multiple signs showing up at once, take it seriously. Don't jump to accusations, but don't dismiss the evidence either. Observation is your greatest tool. When you see clearly, you're no longer vulnerable to manipulation. You're no longer at the mercy of guilt-driven performances. And here's the empowering part. Whether or not betrayal has already happened, these moments are your opportunity to set standards. They're a wake-up call to demand honesty, consistency, and respect. To remind yourself that you deserve a relationship rooted in truth, not distraction, not performance, and not guilt-driven acts. So, if you want to stay sharp, protect your peace, and never be blindsided by emotional games, hit that subscribe button. Like this video, and share it with the men who need this wake-up call. Comment the sign you've recognized in your own experience. Sharing it could help another man see what he's been blind to. Every week, I'll bring you more insights to help you cut through illusions, reclaim your power, and lead your relationships on your terms. Maybe you've been in this moment. You ask a simple question, and suddenly her tone changes, her eyes shift, or she gets defensive out of nowhere. You can feel the distance, but you can't put your finger on why. That's not paranoia. It's your instincts telling you something's off. The danger is when you let those instincts get buried under charm, excuses, and guilt trips. Because women who want to hide the truth are masters at turning the spotlight back on you. But here's the good news. They can't outrun the right questions. In this video, I'll share 7 questions that corner dishonesty, force real reactions, and reveal what's really happening behind the curtain. Once you know these, you'll never be left doubting in silence again. Before I give you the first question, here's your reminder. Dishonesty doesn't scream. It whispers. It hides in the pauses, the defensiveness, the over-explaining. That's why you can't afford to miss what's coming next. So subscribe, like this video, and leave a quick comment if you've ever felt something was wrong but couldn't prove it. Because the very first question I'm about to reveal is the kind that turns whispers into undeniable proof. Number 1, where were you last night? It looks like the simplest question in the world, but simplicity is the trap. A woman who is honest will always have one version of reality. Her details line up because she isn't working to remember a script. She's living the truth. But when someone is hiding something, that same question becomes a razor. The first time you ask, she'll have an answer prepared. The second or third time you ask, at a different moment, in a different mood, the cracks start to show. Lies are heavy, and it takes effort to carry them. Here's how it works. You don't interrogate like a police officer. You drop the question casually, almost like small talk. One night you ask, "Where were you last night?" She says she went to dinner with a female friend, and then they watched a movie at her place. Fine. Nothing suspicious. But 2 nights later, you bring it up in another context. "Oh, your friend called earlier. How was dinner with her on Monday?" If the story is true, she'll recall it with ease. The restaurant, the food, the atmosphere. If it's false, the story shifts. Suddenly, dinner becomes just a quick coffee, or she claims she doesn't remember which day it was. Maybe she even snaps back. "Why are you asking again? Don't you trust me?" That defensive reaction isn't protection. It's projection. The mistake most men make is asking once and taking the first answer at face value. But liars rely on your short memory and your need for peace. They hope you won't revisit the story. By repeating the question across time and context, you force consistency. And consistency is where truth lives. Take one case. A woman claimed she went out with a female friend and a co-worker. Later, when her partner casually asked about the co-worker, she struggled to remember what she'd said before. That gap wasn't random. It was the strain of carrying a lie. You don't need anger or confrontation. You need patience. You listen. You collect. You compare. If the story changes, if the details evaporate, the truth is already in front of you. So remember this. It's not about the question. It's about the replay. Ask again, in different ways, at different times. A man who listens twice will see what the first answer tried to hide. Number 2. Why didn't you answer my call? Every man knows the sting of dialing a woman and watching the screen light up with no response. Sometimes it's innocent. She's in a meeting, her phone's in her bag, she didn't hear it. But when the pattern repeats, when it happens at the same times, or when the excuses start to pile up, this simple question becomes a test of loyalty. Here's the psychology. A woman who's telling the truth doesn't need a novel to explain herself. She'll say, "My phone was on silent," or "I was driving." Short, clear, believable. But a woman who's hiding something? Her answers stretch. Suddenly you get a 5-minute story about how she left her phone in the locker at the gym, how the gym was unusually crowded, how she lost track of time, how she was exhausted, and on and on. That flood of unnecessary detail is not clarity. It's cover. Another red flag is defensiveness. Instead of answering your question, she throws it back at you. "Why are you always calling when I'm busy?" Or, "Can't I have one evening to myself?" Notice what happened. You asked a question about her behavior, and somehow you're now on trial. That's manipulation. A woman with nothing to hide doesn't need to make you feel guilty just for asking. And here's the killer: contradictions with social media. She claims she was too busy to answer, yet during that exact hour, her Instagram story shows her posting selfies or commenting on someone else's post. If she had the time to scroll, she had the time to send a 2-second text saying, "I'll call you later." Silence in your direction, but activity online? That's not distraction. That's choice. Consider this example. A woman claimed she missed her boyfriend's calls every Thursday evening because she was at her book club, with phones on silent. Reasonable, until her social media activity told a different story. During the very hours she claimed she was unreachable, she was liking posts and viewing stories. The book club existed, yes, but she wasn't there the entire evening. She was slipping out early to meet someone else, keeping her phone in her hand for social media, but ignoring his calls. Understand this. Missing one call is nothing. Life happens. But consistent unavailability, paired with shaky explanations, is a signal. You're not asking this question to be controlling. You're asking because consistency is the currency of trust. So the next time you hear, "I couldn't answer, I was too busy," don't focus only on the words. Look at the length of the explanation, the tone of the defense, and whether her digital life tells a different story. Truth is brief. Lies take time. Number 3. Who are you with? This question slices through the fog of vague explanations. Most people, when asked who they were with, naturally share names, faces, little details. "I grabbed a drink with a college friend. You met him at my birthday last year." That's normal. It's human. But when a woman is hiding something, the details suddenly vanish. All you get is "just some friends" or "a few people from work." Here's the psychology. Lies thrive in vagueness. Specifics can be checked, verified, or challenged. A liar avoids that risk by keeping things blurry. But truth likes to be remembered. When a person is honest, they often provide more than you even asked for, because they aren't afraid of follow-up questions. Watch the body language when you ask. A woman with nothing to hide will look you in the eye, answer comfortably, maybe even smile. A woman covering something up often avoids eye contact, shifts in her seat, or suddenly acts irritated that you asked. The body doesn't lie as easily as the mouth. Here's a strategy. Circle back later. If she says, "I was out with a female friend and a coworker," then 2 days later you casually drop, "How's that coworker doing? You mentioned them the other night." If the coworker was real, her answer will come effortlessly. If the coworker was fiction, she'll scramble, stall, or even forget she mentioned them. That's the beauty of this question. You don't need to catch her in the moment. Time does the work for you. Another layer of protection. Mutual friends. If she claims she was with someone you both know, you can verify without raising alarms. For example, you mention casually to that mutual friend, "Heard you two had fun last week." If they look puzzled or deny it, the story unravels instantly. One case stands out. A woman always claimed she went out with her co-workers every Friday night. But when her partner met those co-workers at a company event, none of them ever mentioned such outings. Her vague, "just co-workers" excuse was nothing but cover for another life she was hiding. Understand this. The question isn't about controlling her social circle. It's about clarity. If she resists giving you names, gets defensive when you press gently, or offers only fog instead of faces, she's signaling something. Relationships are built on accountability. If she can't even name who she spent her time with, what else is she hiding? So never underestimate this question. Who are you with is not just small talk. It's a mirror. Honest company is easy to name. Lies, however, can't handle the light of specifics. Number 4. Why do you seem distant lately? This is not a question about schedules. It's about the heartbeat of the relationship. When a woman begins to pull away, less conversation, less affection, less energy. You feel it before you can explain it. And here's the truth. Emotional distance rarely shows up without a cause. If she's being honest, she'll usually have a specific explanation. Stress at work, a family issue, health concerns, real-life problems that drain her energy. These answers come with context, details, and often an apology. I know I've been distracted. My mom's in the hospital, and it's weighing on me. The honesty is tangible. She connects the dots for you, and she's open to your support. But when the distance comes from somewhere else, another man, a hidden investment of attention, the response shifts. Instead of context, you get deflection. She'll deny the distance. I'm not different. You're just being clingy. Or she'll turn the spotlight on you. Why do you analyze everything I do? That's not an answer. That's an attack. It's a way of shutting down your intuition and making you question yourself. Another sign, overcompensation. The moment you ask, she suddenly floods you with affection, texts, or smiles. But it doesn't last. A few days later, the coldness returns. That roller coaster isn't real intimacy. It's a performance designed to cover tracks. Here's where you must be sharp. Don't settle for vague phrases like, "I've just had a lot on my mind." Press gently. What exactly has been bothering you? If the story has no timeline, no concrete weight, then it's likely not the real reason. Genuine stress has fingerprints, deadlines, names, events. A cover story does not. In one case, a man noticed his wife growing colder by the week. Conversations shrank, physical affection dwindled, and shared activities no longer sparked joy. When he asked why, she said, "Work stress." But when he offered to help, take over chores, plan a weekend getaway, she declined every solution. That's when it clicked. It wasn't stress stealing her energy. It was her attention invested elsewhere. Men often ignore emotional distance, hoping it will fade. That's a mistake. Distance is not neutral. It's directional. If she's not bringing her energy to you, it's going somewhere else. So pay attention, ask the question, and don't be fooled by deflection or temporary sweetness. Emotional withdrawal is one of the earliest signs of betrayal. And if you feel it, don't gaslight yourself. Your intuition is usually right. Number 5, can I see your phone for a minute? In today's world, a phone is more than a device. It's a diary, a social circle, and a record of habits. That's why this question is so revealing. It's not about what you might find on the screen. It's about her reaction in the moment you ask. A woman with nothing to hide treats the request casually. She might hand it over without hesitation or explain quickly if she's in the middle of something. Sure, let me finish this text first. Her response is calm, proportional, and free of drama. She doesn't act like you just accused her of a crime. But when secrets are buried in that device, the body speaks before the mouth does. Watch closely. Does she instinctively pull the phone closer to her, like a shield? Does her posture stiffen, her face tighten, her voice rise? These unconscious reactions happen before she has time to control them. A guilty phone owner doesn't relax. She panics. Common verbal red flags include, "Why do you want to see my phone?" or "Don't you trust me?" Notice how these aren't answers. They're counterattacks. The goal is to make you feel ashamed for asking instead of focusing on why she's so unwilling. Another variation is conditional compliance. "You can look later," or "after I clean some things up." Translation? She needs time to erase the evidence. The most extreme response is outright outrage. "Absolutely not. I can't believe you'd even ask." That level of fire over such a simple request tells you the truth. She's hiding something she cannot risk you seeing. Someone with normal privacy concerns will set boundaries calmly, without theatrics. But when fury explodes, it's because the phone is loaded with secrets. Here's a smart tactic. Don't frame the request as a search. Instead, make it practical. Can I use your phone to call my brother? My battery's dead. Or, can I check the weather real quick? If she hands it over easily, that's transparency. If she creates obstacles, why not wait till later? Or, just charge your phone instead. Those excuses are the real signal. Consider one example. A man used this exact method. He asked to borrow his girlfriend's phone to check an address. Her entire body tensed. She clutched the phone like it was gold and snapped, "Use your own." That reaction told him more than any text message ever could. Remember this. You're not hunting through her apps like a detective. You're observing her comfort level with access. Trust doesn't panic. Secrets do. Number 6. Why are you dressing up more than usual? Clothing tells a story long before words do. When a woman suddenly changes the way she presents herself, new outfits, more makeup, extra time in front of the mirror, it raises an important question. Who is she trying to impress? A woman with honest intentions will usually explain these changes with clarity. Maybe she got a promotion and wants to look more professional. Maybe she lost weight and is feeling proud of her progress. Maybe she simply wants to reinvent her style for her own confidence. These reasons make sense, and they come with enthusiasm. She'll tell you about the new blouse she bought for work, or the haircut she's been wanting for months. Real motivation carries details. But when the explanation is vague, "I just felt like it," or when the response turns defensive, "Why can't I care about how I look?" That's a different story. Defensiveness is often the shield for a hidden agenda. And the real red flag isn't just the change in appearance, it's the timing. If she invests more effort in how she looks for outings without you, yet makes minimal effort when she's with you, that's not self-improvement. That's redirected energy. Here's what to watch for. The mismatch between occasion and effort. Suddenly spending an hour getting ready to run errands but throwing on sweats for dinner with you. Putting on perfume to visit family but showing up barefaced when you go on a date together. The pattern isn't about the clothes. It's about where her attention is flowing. In one instance, a man noticed this shift with his girlfriend. For months, she was casual when they went out together. But before grocery runs, she began dressing sharply, doing her hair, even applying lipstick. When he asked why, she brushed it off. But the truth surfaced later. Those errands included detours to meet someone else. The effort wasn't for him. It was for the new audience in her life. You don't need to confront with accusations. You simply need to observe. Honest changes in appearance are transparent, shared openly, even celebrated. Secretive changes are defensive, mismatched, and selective. So when you notice the shift, ask the question. Listen not just to the words, but to the tone. Genuine motivation shines through with clarity. Hidden attraction hides behind irritation. Never forget, appearance is currency. When she spends more of it outside your relationship than within it, she's showing you exactly where her priorities now lie. Number 7. Why do you keep saying, "I don't trust you"? This question flips the script. When a woman feels cornered, she often reaches for one of the oldest tricks in the book, projection. Instead of answering your concerns, she accuses you of being the problem. "You don't trust me. You're controlling. You're always suspicious." Suddenly the spotlight is off her behavior and shining on your supposed flaws. Here's the psychology. People who are guilty often use deflection because it buys them time. If you're busy defending your trustworthiness as a partner, you're not pressing them on the real issue. It's a smokescreen. But when you throw the question back, "Why do you keep saying I don't trust you?" you force her to explain the accusation, and that's where the truth slips. An honest woman might pause, reflect, and say, "You're right. I've been defensive lately. I need to think about why." That's transparency. She's willing to examine herself and meet you halfway. But a woman hiding something? She doubles down. Because you're always on my case. Because you make me feel like a criminal. Notice the vagueness. No specific examples, no concrete behavior from you, just broad claims designed to make you feel guilty. If she can't pinpoint when or how you supposedly distrusted her, it's because the issue isn't you. It's her conscience. Here's a tactic. Calmly ask, what exactly have I done that makes you think I don't trust you? If she struggles to answer, if she dodges, if she spirals into more accusations, you've exposed the projection. Real grievances come with dates, situations, memories. Manufactured ones fall apart under scrutiny. In one case, a man's girlfriend constantly accused him of being suspicious, even though he rarely questioned her. When he finally asked why she kept bringing it up, she couldn't provide a single example. It turned out she was projecting her own guilt. She was unfaithful, and her constant, "You don't trust me," was her way of masking that reality. Understand this. A woman who brings up trust more than you do is usually fighting her own battle with it. She's not reacting to your lack of faith. She's revealing her own lack of honesty. So when you hear that phrase again and again, don't get defensive. Don't fall for the guilt trip. Ask the question. Watch her reaction. If she can't explain it clearly, the issue isn't your trust. It's her truth. Now you've seen it. 7 questions that act like scalpels, cutting through excuses, vagueness, and emotional games. These aren't tricks to play detective in your relationship. They are mirrors. Each one forces a moment of truth, not through confrontation, but through consistency, observation, and calm strength. Understand this. You're not asking to police her. You're asking to protect yourself. A man who ignores patterns, who dismisses his gut, who silences his own instincts, becomes easy prey for manipulation. But a man who listens carefully, asks clearly, and observes patiently, he can't be deceived for long. Think back through these 7 questions. They aren't about proving her guilty. They're about giving her the chance to show where she really stands. Honest women will meet you with clarity, detail, and openness. Dishonest women will meet you with fog, defensiveness, and guilt trips. The contrast is so sharp it's impossible to miss once you know what to look for. And here's the real lesson. The answers matter less than the reactions. Watch how she responds. Does she relax or does she panic? Does she give details or does she attack? Does she welcome clarity or run from it? That difference tells you everything. Don't let your emotions blind you. Don't let affection rewrite reality. And don't wait until betrayal shatters you to start protecting your heart. You can't control another person's loyalty, but you can control your awareness, your boundaries, and your decision to stay true to yourself. If you've been watching this and thinking, this is exactly what I needed, then it's time to take the next step. Hit that subscribe button right now. Share this video with another man who might be walking blind into the same storm. Drop a comment below about which question hit you the hardest. Your story could wake someone else up. And don't forget to like this video so more men can see it before it's too late. Because here's the truth. Trust isn't about closing your eyes and hoping for the best. Trust is about seeing clearly, asking the right questions, and refusing to be played. Don't wait until you're broken to learn how to defend yourself. Protect your heart today, because if you don't, no one else will. She's with another man, and you know it. The betrayal feels like fire in your chest, and yet you still love her. That love is what makes you dangerous to yourself. Because love after betrayal turns men into beggars, and beggars lose everything. But here's the truth. You don't have to be destroyed. There are 9 steps that can pull you out of this trap. 9 things you must do before you make a single decision. Skip them, and you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share might just save you from yourself. You're not the only one going through this. Men from every walk of life have faced this same pain, and the choices they made shaped their entire future. Subscribe right now if you want to make sure your choices lead to strength, not regret. And comment below. Are you watching this because you've lived it, or because you fear one day you might? Either way, stay with me, because the next truth may sting, but it's the one you need most. Number 1, you must face the cold reality. When a woman cheats, it rarely comes out of nowhere. Most men convince themselves it was a sudden slip, a careless mistake, something that can be brushed off if they just forgive quickly enough. But that's a dangerous illusion. By the time she crosses that line, her heart has usually been gone for a long time. The cheating is not the beginning of the end, it's the confirmation that the bond was already broken. This is where many men fail. They cling to the fantasy of who she used to be instead of confronting who she has already become. They replay memories of when she was loyal, when she smiled only at them, when intimacy felt secure. But memory won't save you. The woman standing in front of you today is not the same one you once trusted, and pretending otherwise is self-deception that will cost you even more. You need to remove the blindfold. Stop asking, "How could she do this to me?" and start asking, "Why didn't I see it coming?" The signs were there, the distance, the excuses, the shift in her energy. You just didn't want to face them. Now the truth is undeniable, and the longer you delay accepting it, the deeper the wound will cut. Here is the hardest part. She betrayed you, not at the moment she slept with someone else, but at the moment her heart left the relationship while you were still holding on. That's when you truly lost her. If you can't accept this cold reality, every step that follows will collapse. This is the foundation. Without it, you'll keep negotiating with illusions instead of dealing with truth. Number 2, you must turn the spotlight on yourself with ruthless honesty. After betrayal, most men obsess about her actions, where she went, who she was with, what she said. But the brutal truth is, the most important questions are the ones you must ask yourself. Because before you decide whether to hold on or to let go, you need to know exactly what you're holding on to. Start by stripping away every excuse. Has she done this before? If she has a history of being unfaithful, then you're not dealing with a one-time event. You're staring at a pattern. And patterns don't vanish because of apologies. Next, ask, why did she cheat? Some men want to believe cheating is just cheating. But context matters. Was it a careless night fueled by alcohol and poor judgment? Or was it an affair that stretched for months, maybe years, where emotions were invested, secrets were built, and intimacy was redirected away from you? One is reckless, the other is a full replacement. They are not the same. Then confront the state of the relationship before it happened. Were you drifting apart? Was she voicing dissatisfaction that you ignored? Or did she blindside you when you thought things were perfectly fine? The answers here are not about justifying her actions. They are about exposing the truth of what your relationship really was. This process will hurt. It will tear down the image you've built of your relationship, the version you wanted to believe in. But unless you face these questions with ruthless honesty, you will make decisions based on emotion, not reality. And decisions made in desperation almost always chain men to the very pain they're trying to escape. Number 3. You need to determine whether her betrayal was driven by compulsion or by conscious choice. This distinction matters more than most men realize. Treating them as the same thing will trap you in confusion and waste precious time. Compulsion looks like this. She repeatedly seeks attention or intimacy outside the relationship, often without clear reasoning, almost as if she cannot control the urge. It may be linked to deeper psychological issues, patterns of self-sabotage, an inability to commit, or even a craving for validation that no single partner can satisfy. In these cases, she might not even take real pleasure in what she's doing. It's simply an addictive loop she struggles to break. That doesn't make it any less painful, but it means you're dealing with something rooted in her inner wiring, not necessarily in your shortcomings. Choice, however, is very different. When she plans it, hides it, and maintains it, that's not compulsion, it's intent. It's when she evaluates her options, knows the risks, and still decides to betray. That is a declaration of her values. And once you see it for what it is, you can no longer fool yourself into believing she just slipped. Ask her directly. Does she feel in control of her urges, or was this something she calculated? Does she even acknowledge the difference? Her response will tell you more than you think. But don't confuse her excuses for answers. Many women will claim, "I don't know why, it just happened," when in reality, it was carefully orchestrated. If it's compulsion, she needs professional help, not just promises. If it's choice, then you must face the fact that she betrayed because she wanted to. One can possibly be managed. The other is a permanent red flag. Don't blur the line. Your future depends on seeing it clearly. Number 4, you need the right support system. Betrayal is heavy. Trying to carry it alone will crush you. But here's the danger. Most men, in their pain, run straight to the wrong people. They rant to colleagues, vent to her friends, or even worse, confide in her family. That's not strength. It's self-destruction. Every word you spread becomes fuel for gossip, judgment, and manipulation. When you've been cheated on, your reputation is already fragile. If you open your wounds in front of the wrong audience, you hand them power over your story. You become the man who couldn't keep his woman, and those words will echo long after the pain fades. You cannot afford that. What you need is selective, disciplined support. Reach out only to the people who knew you before her, the ones whose loyalty is to you, not to her, not to your relationship, but to your well-being. It could be a longtime friend, a brother, or a mentor you trust. Tell them what happened, not to get instructions, but to have a safe place to process the chaos in your mind. Make it clear, you're not asking them to make decisions for you. You're asking for perspective, maybe just a listening ear. Sometimes saying the words out loud to someone you trust helps you hear your own truth more clearly. But always draw the line. Don't bleed your pain into every corner of your life. Don't tell her best friend, her co-workers, or mutual acquaintances. That's not release. That's exposure. Your support system is your shield, not your stage. Build it wisely, and it will steady you while you prepare for the decisions ahead. Build it carelessly, and it will become another battlefield where you lose control. Number 5. You must confront the question of compatibility. Not every betrayal comes from boredom or anger. Sometimes it comes from a deeper truth. She doesn't believe in monogamy. There are women who can't or won't stay with one partner. They crave variety, freedom, or the thrill of new connections. And if that's who she is at her core, no amount of pleading or promises will reshape her. This is where men destroy themselves. They convince themselves that love is enough to bridge the gap. They think if they love harder, forgive faster, or perform better, she'll suddenly embrace loyalty. That's a fantasy. Values don't bend under pressure. They either align or they don't. If she rejects exclusivity and you believe in it fully, you are not partners. You are opponents fighting under the same roof. Ask yourself, could you ever accept an open relationship? Could you live with the idea of her seeking intimacy with others while still calling you her partner? If the thought alone makes your stomach turn, then you already have your answer. Trying to force yourself into that arrangement will break you piece by piece. On the other hand, if you truly believe you can handle openness, you need to define the rules with absolute clarity. But let's be honest, Most men who say they're okay with it are just terrified of losing her completely. They compromise out of fear, not conviction. And compromise built on fear is the quickest road to self-destruction. Compatibility is not about how much you want her back. It's about whether your core values match. If they don't, then clinging to her is not love. It's self-betrayal, and that betrayal is far more devastating than anything she's done to you. Number 6, you must take a tactical pause. When you first discover betrayal, your emotions will scream for action. You'll want to explode in rage, demand explanations, or worse, beg her to stay. That is exactly what you must not do, because the moment you lose control, you hand her all the power. Silence and distance are not weakness, they are strategy. After the shock, step back. Create space between you and her. Give yourself the time to breathe, to clear your mind, and to regain your composure. If you rush in with anger or desperation, you set the tone for the entire aftermath, and it will be one of chaos. During this pause, focus inward. What are your boundaries? What are you absolutely unwilling to tolerate? What would need to change for you even to consider rebuilding? Write it down if you have to. This is not about her yet. It's about you stabilizing yourself before re-engaging. Then when you are ready, initiate a conversation. Speak calmly, but firmly. Ask the questions that matter. What led to this? Was it about unfulfilled needs, or was it about choices she made, knowing full well the consequences? Listen, but do not surrender your position. This is not a negotiation to win her back. It's a fact-finding mission to decide whether she even deserves a place in your life. And remember this: a pause carries more strength than begging ever will. Space communicates that you are not dependent on her validation. It tells her, without words, that you are a man who can stand on his own. In betrayal, that posture is your shield. Number 7, you must reach the decision point. Every man who has been cheated on eventually faces this crossroad. Do you stay and attempt to rebuild, or do you walk away and reclaim your life? Most men delay this choice, clinging to uncertainty because it feels safer than the pain of a final answer. But indecision is its own form of destruction. So here is the truth. Staying is only an option if both of you are fully committed to change. That means she takes accountability without excuses, and you are willing to face uncomfortable truths about the relationship. It means setting new standards, defining new boundaries, and both of you working toward them without half measures. If either of you is unwilling, then the relationship is already finished. You're just delaying the burial. On the other hand, you must recognize when walking away is the only sane choice. If your core values clash, if you demand loyalty while she demands freedom, there is no compromise that won't poison you. If she minimizes her betrayal, blames you, or refuses transparency, then staying is not rebuilding, it's self-erasure. This is where many men fail. They let fear of being alone trap them in situations that slowly dismantle their dignity. They convince themselves that suffering together is better than starting over. But there is no honor in living with someone who disrespects your most fundamental boundaries. So decide, with clarity and courage. Staying requires both of you to rise. Leaving requires only you. Either way, the worst choice is no choice at all. Indecision keeps you chained to the pain. A man who knows his values and acts on them is free, no matter the outcome. Number 8. If you choose to stay, understand this. What you had before is gone. The relationship that existed before betrayal is dead. Trying to get back to how it was is impossible, and chasing that illusion will only drag you deeper into frustration. If you stay, you are not repairing the old relationship. You are building a new one from scratch. That means new rules, new expectations, a new foundation built on absolute clarity. What are your non-negotiables? What boundaries must never be crossed again? What will trust look like now, and how will it be measured? These questions must be answered, not in vague promises, but in specific agreements. Without that, forgiveness is nothing more than a bandage over a wound that will reopen. It also means mutual commitment. You cannot rebuild alone. If you are the only one making sacrifices, the structure will collapse. She must demonstrate real accountability, consistent transparency, and visible effort. If she shrugs it off, saying, "Let's just move forward," understand that what she really means is, "Let's forget I ever betrayed you." And that attitude will rot the foundation before you lay the first brick. Practical steps matter. Consider professional counseling to help create a safe space for dialogue. Get medical checkups to eliminate risks left behind by betrayal. Introduce routines that re-establish intimacy and connection. But remember, progress will be slow and setbacks will come. Above all, remind yourself every day, this is not the same relationship, and it never will be. You are either both building something new, or you are wasting energy on something already buried. Staying can work, but only if it feels like growth. If it feels like slow decay, you are not rebuilding. You are sentencing yourself to live in ruins. Number 9. You must prepare for the psychological aftermath. Cheating doesn't just break trust, it leaves scars that alter the way you see relationships, women, and even yourself. If you ignore these scars, they will quietly control your decisions, shaping your future through fear and bitterness. But if you confront them, they can become armor. Understand this. Trust will not snap back into place. Every disagreement, every late text, every unexplained absence will trigger doubt. That's not paranoia. It's the residue of betrayal. You need to accept that healing takes time, and during that time, you must guard your emotions. Guarding doesn't mean closing your heart forever. It means refusing to hand over blind faith to anyone who hasn't earned it. Do not let this experience turn you into a cynical shell who sees every woman as guilty before proven innocent. That is weakness disguised as toughness. Real strength is the ability to recognize risk while still living with clarity and purpose. Learn to observe patterns, not excuses. Learn to walk away at the first sign of disrespect, not after years of erosion. Most importantly, upgrade yourself. Use the pain as fuel. Build your body, sharpen your mind, grow your finances, strengthen your network. Betrayal can either shrink you or expand you, and that choice is yours. Never forget, she may have shattered your trust, but the greater danger is if you allow her to shatter your identity. Betrayal forces a man to either resurrect himself stronger or bury himself weaker. Which outcome you choose will echo through every relationship you ever have again. You've just walked through 9 strategic steps, from facing the cold reality, to questioning yourself with ruthless honesty, to distinguishing compulsion from choice, from building the right support system, to confronting compatibility, to pausing strategically before you talk, from making the hard decision, to building a new relationship if you stay, to arming your mind for the aftermath. These steps aren't theory. They are survival. Not every man will have the strength to follow them. Some will collapse in denial, hoping the problem disappears. Others will drown in emotion, making desperate choices that bind them to more pain. But a few will rise. They will see betrayal for what it is, not just a wound, but a test. And how you respond to that test will define the man you become. Understand this, surviving infidelity is not about her. It's about you. It's about whether you allow one act of betrayal to destroy your dignity or whether you use it as the fire that forges you into someone stronger. It's about refusing to let her actions dictate your future. It's about reclaiming control, not only over the relationship, but over your life. If this message hit you where it hurts, leave a comment below. Share what step you're struggling with, or what truth finally snapped you awake. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another breakdown of the hidden games in relationships. And if you know a man who's stuck in this nightmare, share this video with him. Sometimes the harshest truth is the only lifeline that saves a man. She may have cheated. That's her betrayal. But the greater danger is if you betray yourself by ignoring reality, by clinging to illusions, by selling out your values just to keep someone who already left you. Remember this: she can betray you once,